Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with a Mass Effect Andromeda news update, and this is a doozy of a story that has been to hell and back again, and it has been updated constantly throughout various gaming networks. So let's just keep it simple and start at the beginning with a post on Facebook from Sinclair Networks, who says, "This news saddens us to say, but it was made official after a meeting this week that there will be no story DLC for Mass Effect Andromeda from us. Due to issues in initial production, heavy critiques, significant delays in other projects, staff allocation, and reductions in Montreal, it was decided to shelve the franchise for the time being, and all our resources and outsourcing are being focused to the 2018 release of Anthem. For the moment, the Mass Effect series will be on ice until BioWare can decide which direction the franchise will go. The only content that will be produced will be the recurring Apex missions, as well as patches as and when they are needed." Now, there were expectations from Mass Effect fans, despite that the series was going on ice, that there would be single-player DLC, and rightfully so. I won't spoil the game for anyone who does plan on playing it or is in the middle of a playthrough, but let's just say at the ending, there is definitely some sequel bait, and on top of that, there is a hint that there will be some DLC involving the Quarians at the very least. I will say no more than that, like I said, for the risk of spoilers, but it was highly expected and reasonably so. Furthermore, we do have to clarify that BioWare never did confirm that there would be single-player DLC, because on Twitter, Flynn hinted that BioWare also had plans for Andromeda when it comes to DLC. When asked about potential story add-ons or multiplayer DLC, Andromeda will include a multiplayer component, but BioWare hasn't revealed it yet, and Flynn said, "We'll talk more about that later." So while I 100% understand why people do want to get up in arms about this, we do have to recall that there was never a guarantee there would be DLC, but the end of the game highly insinuated that would be the fact. Anyway, PC Gamer later on came out and said that BioWare has kiboshed the Mass Effect Andromeda DLC cancellation rumor. In their original story, before this is further updated, the Mass Effect rumor machine spun up quickly following a report yesterday which claimed that the planned story DLC for Andromeda had been cancelled. As I said, the rumor began with a Facebook message from a purported Australian studio called Sinclair Networks, now deleted but captured by Critical Hit, claiming that its contract with BioWare to create 3 Andromeda DLCs had been cancelled. And Michael Gamble, who is the producer at BioWare Edmonton, said, "Never heard of Sinclair Networks ever." Sounded kind of pissed off, obviously, and rightfully so, but he's going out there to say that, yeah, we've never heard of them. This basically isn't true is what he's getting at. And I think most people were willing to take that at face value right away and say, okay, yeah, you know, it came from a Facebook message. We're inclined to not believe that. So yeah, sure, the developer comes out and says, we don't know who that is. Okay, no problem. And then Kotaku steps into the mix, and just after Mike Gamble said, we don't know who Sinclair Networks is, essentially trying to say that, yeah, this isn't true, they come out and say that Mass Effect Andromeda will not get single-player DLC, and not because of what we saw from Sinclair Networks, but in fact, something else. In April, as we reported, BioWare scaled down its Montreal studio, whose staff had developed Mass Effect Andromeda with help from BioWare's other studios in Edmonton and Austin. The chilly reception to Andromeda led to the company to transfer BioWare Montreal's employees to other projects, including Battlefront 2, Anthem, and the next Dragon Age. Although a small team remains in place to work on Mass Effect Andromeda's multiplayer and patch support, which isn't done yet, most of BioWare Montreal has moved on. BioWare also shelved plans for a sequel to Mass Effect Andromeda, sources said. While reporting that news, I had been pretty sure that Mass Effect Andromeda won't be getting single-player DLC. There are few people left at BioWare Montreal who could even work on it, but I wanted to be confident, so over the past few weeks, I've confirmed the news with 3 sources familiar with the company's plans, all whom spoke anonymously so as to not jeopardize their careers. Unless BioWare decides to make some sort of drastic pivot, plans can always change. Mass Effect Andromeda will not be getting single-player DLC. Now, I for one personally believe Kotaku. I know not everyone likes them, I'm not saying I do, but when it comes to these type of leaks, these types of rumors, and they get their anonymous sources going, a lot of the times it ends up being true. I mean, we are talking about the same reporter who came out and did give us scripts for Fallout 4, amongst many other leaks. I mean, Jason Schreier is a leak master, if anything. So with that said, if this were true, I'd have to say I'm not too surprised this is the path they decided to take. I mean, people were really disappointed with Andromeda. especially since Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, despite 3's ending, still I think that game was mostly well received. It's a highly touted franchise. It's one of the best action RPG franchises ever, and Andromeda is a huge blemish on that. And I think they really took that criticism to heart, almost to the point of embarrassment, where they felt to themselves, do we really want to maybe add more insult to injury? Let's say they mess up the DLC, because you could have, for example, something along the lines of Fallout 4 and Far Harbor, where we had this situation where we can see Bethesda Game Studios clearly knows what to do to make a good role-playing game there. Although it was a small sample size, they need to do it on a bigger scale. It was really encouraging to see that they still knew what exactly fans liked about their games, and that's what people were hoping for maybe with future Andromeda DLC, especially since BioWare has made some really awesome DLC in the past. And as a Mass Effect fan myself, I have to say it sucks to see this franchise on ice, and now it's not getting DLC support to maybe redeem the product a little bit, to improve it over time like they have been doing with the patches. That's if this story is true. But maybe that's why, like I mentioned earlier, that they were holding back on confirming whether or not there would be single player DLC, saying that, oh, we'll talk about it later, because maybe they wanted to see the reception for the game. If it was better than they expected, they'd go, okay, let's support it more. But since that reception was pretty poor, perhaps their train of thought is, let's give Mass Effect a break and really double down on Anthem and Dragon Age, especially since Anthem is going to be their next big IP. It'll be really interesting to see how this develops, but I mean, it sucks about Mass Effect, man. I mean, talk about a great franchise that's just gone down the tube very fast in just mere months. After years of creating a legacy, it's a damn shame, man. It sucks. Anyway, I wanted to bring you guys that story, give my thoughts on it. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. So fire away, people. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that, as it fuels all the content we create here. Other than that, stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.